Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever looked at a massive oil refinery or a chemical plant and just wondered, how does all that even work? I mean, it seems impossibly complex. Well, it's not magic. There's a secret language, a hidden blueprint that runs it all. And today, we're going to learn how to read it.
Seriously, think about it for a second. A modern industrial plant is basically a city made of steel. You've got thousands of pipes, hundreds of pumps, tanks, and all sorts of complex machinery. So how in the world do you design, build, and operate something that massive without it just descending into total, absolute chaos?
Well, you definitely can't just wing it. You need one single source of truth, a master blueprint that everyone, and I mean everyone, from the engineers in the design office to the operators on the plant floor can look at and understand perfectly. You need a universal language for the entire process.
So, what is this master blueprint? What is this secret language I'm talking about? Well, let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the document that really makes all of modern industry possible.
It's called a P&ID. That stands for Piping and Instrumentation Diagram. Just think of it as the ultimate instruction manual for a plant. It shows every single piece of equipment, every pipe, every valve, and, this is the crucial part, all the instruments that measure and control the whole operation. It is the definitive map of the entire facility. Now, you might have heard of something called a PFD, a process flow diagram. The difference here is all about the details. A PFD, that's like a highway map. It shows you the main routes, how the big cities are connected. But a P&ID, oh, that's the detailed city map. It shows you every single street, every little alleyway, every stoplight, and every single building. That's the level of insane detail we're talking about here. Okay, so reading a P&ID for the first time, it's kind of like learning a new language. It can look pretty intimidating, I'll admit. But really, it's just a collection of symbols. Once you learn the basic alphabet, you can start to piece together words and then whole sentences. So, let's learn the essentials.
We can pretty much break down the most common symbols into four main groups, or families. You've got your pathways, which move everything around, the containers, which hold all the stuff, the movers, which provide all the force, and the controllers, which, you guessed it, manage the flow.
First up, the most basic, fundamental symbol of them all, the process line. This simple, solid line you see everywhere, that's a pipe. It's the circulatory system of the whole plant, just carrying fluids from point A to point B. Simple as that.
Next up, we have the tank. This symbol represents any kind of vessel that's used to store material. This is often where a process will start or end, holding either the raw materials or maybe the finished product.
But how does all that fluid actually move through the pipes? It's not going to do it by itself, right? That's where the pump comes in. This symbol right here represents the heart of the system. It provides the energy needed to push liquids through all those pipes. It's really the engine that drives everything forward.
And to control all that movement, you absolutely need a valve. The best way to think about this is like the faucet on your sink, or a traffic light on a busy street. This symbol tells you there's a device that can open, close, or just partially restrict the flow, giving operators incredibly precise control over the whole process.
So, we've got the body figured out. The pipes, the pumps, the tanks. But what about the nervous system? What about the brains of the operation? That's where the instruments come in.
This simple circle is probably one of the most important symbols on the whole diagram. It represents an instrument, the eyes and ears of the plant. And the letters you see inside tell you exactly what it's doing. So the first letter usually tells you what it's measuring, like F for flow or T for temperature. The next letters describe its function. These little guys are absolutely crucial for monitoring and controlling everything, making sure the process runs safely and efficiently.
All right, now that we've got some of the basic vocabulary down, let's put it all together. See, reading a P&ID isn't just about spotting symbols. It's about following the story of the process, seeing how it moves from the very beginning to the very end.
So here's the key. You don't have to understand everything all at once. It's not that complicated. Just follow a really simple method. First, find where the fluid starts. Usually, it's going to be in a tank. Then, just follow that main process line, that main pipe. As you follow it, look for the pump that's pushing it along, and then start to notice all the valves and instruments that are controlling its journey.
So, picture it. You're looking at a real P&ID. You can literally trace the entire story with your finger. You'd see the fluid leaving a storage tank, traveling along a pipe, then it gets a push from a pump, and its flow is being carefully managed by a valve. And all along that path, you'd see those little instrument circles, monitoring the pressure, checking the temperature, and feeding all that data back to the control system.
It's like you're reading the narrative of the process itself.
So this thing, this P&ID, it's not just some drawing that gets used once and then filed away. No way. The P&ID is a living, breathing document. It is the central reference for the entire lifespan of a billion-dollar facility, from the very first sketch to its final day of operation.
A P&ID is absolutely essential at every single stage. In the design phase, it's used to figure out how much the project's going to cost. During construction, it's the literal guide for building everything and for conducting critical safety reviews. Once the plant is up and running, it's the main tool for training new operators. And for maintenance, it has to be kept perfectly up to date because an inaccurate P&ID isn't just an inconvenience, it can be incredibly dangerous.
So what are the big things to remember here? First, a P&ID is the master blueprint, the absolute source of truth for an industrial plant. Second, it uses a universal language of symbols that shows every single piece of equipment and how it's all connected. And finally, remember that it's not just a drawing. It's a critical, living tool for a plant's safety and efficiency, from day one all the way to the end.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? This incredibly detailed, symbolic language is running a massive part of our physical world, but to most of us, it's completely invisible. It kind of leaves you wondering what other complex parts of our world are run by a secret language that's just hiding in plain sight. Thanks so much for joining me.